The 2000s were supposed to be the decade that finally killed the American performance car. SUVs were everywhere, minivans were multiplying, and every automotive journalist on the planet was writing obituaries for the V8 engine. But while the world was distracted by cup holders and third-row seating, something dangerous was quietly happening in the dealership lots across America. Engineers who grew up worshiping muscle cars were stuffing serious power into the most unsuspecting packages imaginable. Grandma sedans, family haulers, cars your insurance company had absolutely no reason to fear. These are the 15 unknown sleeper cars from the 2000s that nobody saw coming. Number 15, 2004 to 2008. Pontiac Grand Prix GXP. Here is a car that gets absolutely zero respect at car shows, zero coverage in performance magazines, and approximately zero reactions from anyone who has never driven one. That changes today. The Pontiac Grand Prix had spent most of the 1990s being a perfectly acceptable front-wheel drive family coupe. Comfortable, inoffensive, about as threatening as a library book. But in 2004, Pontiac did something nobody expected. They dropped the LS4, a 5.3-liter V8 borrowed directly from the Corvette family tree, into the Grand Prix engine bay and created the GXP. Now, stuffing a V8 into a front-wheel drive platform is the kind of engineering decision that sounds either brilliant or catastrophic, depending on who you ask. The answer, in this case, was somewhere gloriously in between. The LS4 produced 303 horsepower and 323 pound-feet of torque pushing through the front wheels. Torque steer was real. It was enthusiastic. It had opinions. But 0 to 60 in the low 6-second range from something that looked exactly like the car your high school vice principal drove to work every morning. That was genuinely shocking. The Grand Prix GXP wore no outrageous body kits, no hood scoops, no badges screaming for attention. Just a subtle GXP emblem and a V8 exhaust note that told a completely different story than the bodywork suggested. Pontiac built these for only 4 years before the brand itself disappeared in 2010, taking the GXP with it. Today you can find one for less than $8,000. The performance per dollar ratio is almost offensive. Number 14, 2004 to 2006. Chevrolet Impala SS. The Chevrolet Impala. The name alone conjures images of rental car lots, airport parking structures, and your uncle, who always talks about getting a sports car someday, but never actually does. So, when Chevrolet quietly revived the SS badge on the Impala in 2004, the automotive world collectively shrugged and went back to reading about the Corvette. That was a mistake. Like the Grand Prix GXP, the Impala SS received the LS4 5.3-liter V8, 303 horsepower, 323 pound-feet of torque, front-wheel drive, and a body so deliberately anonymous that it practically had the word invisible printed on the door panels. This was a car that could run 0 to 60 in about 6 seconds while looking like it was on its way to pick up a prescription. What made the Impala SS particularly dangerous as a sleeper was its sheer size. This was a full-size American sedan, wide, long, comfortable. When one pulled up next to you at a traffic light, your brain registered absolutely no threat, which was exactly the moment the driver floored it, and the front tires did their best impression of a burnout, while the Impala disappeared into the distance. Chevrolet built these for just 3 model years. Production numbers were low. And because most buyers never knew this version existed, survival rates are surprisingly poor. These are becoming legitimate collector items, and almost nobody has figured that out yet. Consider yourself warned. Number 13, 2001 to 2006. Dodge Stratus RT. Right, stay with me on this one, because I know exactly what you were thinking. The Dodge Stratus. Seriously. The Dodge Stratus was the automotive equivalent of beige wallpaper. It was a car so aggressively ordinary that it became a punchline. There is an entire Saturday Night Live sketch built around how unimpressive the Dodge Stratus is. And yet, tucked inside the RT trim level, Chrysler installed a 2.7-liter V6 that actually had some fight in it. Now, to be fair, the Stratus RT was never going to embarrass a Corvette. Let us be completely honest about that. But with 199 horsepower, a sport-tuned suspension, and a 4-speed automatic transmission wrapped in a body that literally nobody on Earth perceived as a threat. The Stratus RT occupied a very specific niche. It was the car that could hang with entry-level sport compacts while its driver maintained complete and total plausible deniability. The Stratus RT also benefited from one of the great unsung advantages in sleeper history. People actively felt sorry for you driving a Stratus. They assumed you had lost some kind of bet. That psychological advantage, combined with a chassis that was genuinely better balanced than most people remember, made the RT one of the sneakiest performers of its era. Chrysler never promoted it properly. The badge was subtle, the performance was real, and almost everyone missed it entirely. Number 12, 2000 to 2005, Buick LeSabre. Oh, you read that correctly. A Buick LeSabre. On a performance list. In the year of our Lord 2000 and whatever. Hear me out. The Buick LeSabre was, on the surface, precisely what it appeared to be. A large, comfortable, front-wheel drive American sedan aimed squarely at buyers who appreciated heated seats and smooth highway manners more than lateral grip. The average LeSabre buyer in 2001 was not exactly haunting the drag strip on weekends, but the limited trim level of the LeSabre packed a 3.8-liter supercharged V6 producing 240 horsepower and 280 pound-feet of torque. That supercharger whine sitting under the surface of what sounded like a very polite family car created one of the most confusing automotive experiences of the decade. You would roll up to a stoplight in this enormous pillow-soft American barge, and when the light changed, something genuinely unexpected happened. The LeSabre's secret weapon was the supercharged torque delivery. It hit early, it hit hard, and it arrived inside a car that weighed close to 3,600 pounds and rode like a living room sofa. The combination should not have worked. It absolutely worked. 0 to 60 in around 7 seconds from a car that was factory equipped with an analog clock and a wood grain dashboard is, frankly, remarkable. Nobody feared the Buick LeSabre. That was entirely the point. Number 11, 2005 to 2006, Pontiac Bonneville GXP. 2 entries on this list for Pontiac, and they genuinely earned both of them. The Bonneville GXP arrived in 2005 as the last great expression of a nameplate that stretched back to 1958. And Pontiac, to their enormous credit, sent it off with the same LS4 V8 that powered the Grand Prix GXP, 303 horsepower, front-wheel drive, a nameplate that most people associated with their grandfather's highway cruiser. The Bonneville GXP was, in the most literal possible sense, the wolf in the most convincing sheep's clothing that Pontiac ever assembled. What separated the Bonneville GXP from its Grand Prix sibling was presence. The Bonneville was longer, wider, and heavier. It looked more like a serious executive sedan than a performance car, which made its acceleration numbers even more bewildering to the uninitiated. The suspension tuning was sharper than anything bearing the Bonneville name had any right to be. Brembo brakes appeared on the options list. A heads-up display borrowed from the Corvette was available. Pontiac built the Bonneville GXP for exactly 2 model years before the Bonneville nameplate was retired forever. Total production numbers were heartbreakingly small. These cars were overlooked when new, overlooked in the years that followed, and are only now beginning to attract the attention of enthusiasts who understand what they are actually looking at. This is one of the great unrecognized performance bargains in modern American automotive history. Number 10, 2003 to 2004, Mercury Marauder. The Mercury Marauder only existed for 2 model years. Ford built roughly 11,000 of them across 2003 and 2004, priced them at around $33,000. Watched them sit on dealership lots, and quietly pulled the plug. By conventional measures, the Marauder was a commercial failure. By every other measure, it was one of the most interesting performance sedans of the decade. Ford took the Crown Victoria platform, that massive body-on-frame rear-wheel drive architecture beloved by police departments and taxi companies everywhere, and transformed it into something genuinely sinister. All black exterior, black wheels, blacked-out trim. The Marauder looked like what would happen if a detective novel came to life and decided to buy a car. Under the hood sat a 4.6-liter DOHC V8 producing 240 horsepower. Paired to a 4-speed automatic transmission and the Crown Victoria's rear-wheel drive platform, the Marauder ran 0 to 60 in around 7 seconds. That sounds modest until you remember this was a full-size body-on-frame American sedan that weighed close to 4,000 pounds and looked like it was about to ask you some questions downtown. The Marauder never got the power output it deserved. Many enthusiasts argued then, and argue now, that Ford left enormous potential untapped. But as a factory sleeper, as a car that combined genuine rear-wheel drive capability with a body that radiated pure authoritarian menace, the Mercury Marauder was unlike anything else in 2000 showrooms. Number 9, 2004 to 2007. Cadillac CTS-V. In 2004, Cadillac put a 5.7-liter LS6 V8 into a mid-size rear-wheel drive sports sedan, gave it a 6-speed manual transmission, and produced a car capable of lapping the Nürburgring faster than the BMW M5 of the same era. The automotive world noticed. The general public did not. The first-generation CTS-V was not a subtle car by the standards of this list. Enthusiasts who were paying attention absolutely knew what it was. But to the overwhelming majority of people in parking lots and at traffic lights, a Cadillac CTS was simply a Cadillac CTS. A luxury car, an executive's car, something you bought when you had arrived somewhere professionally, but had not yet figured out that you were supposed to buy a German sedan. That misperception was the CTS-V's greatest gift. 400 horsepower, rear-wheel drive, a 6-speed manual transmission in a Cadillac, which in 2004 felt roughly as unexpected as finding a drag slick in a flower arrangement. 0 to 60 in around 4.6 seconds. Quarter mile in the low 13s. Numbers that belonged in a sports car catalog showing up inside something that wore a wreath and crest badge. The first-generation CTS-V had reliability quirks. The differential was famously fragile. The suspension setup drew criticism. None of that changes what it was fundamentally trying to be, which was an American answer to the M5 that wore its performance underneath a layer of Cadillac normalcy. It absolutely succeeded. Number 8, 2008 to 2009. Pontiac G8 GT. The Pontiac G8 is a genuine tragedy, not a metaphorical tragedy, an actual quantifiable tragedy that automotive enthusiasts should be upset about. Ford, not for sentimental reasons, not because of nostalgia, but because of cold, hard engineering fact. Holden, General Motors' Australian performance division, had spent decades developing a rear-wheel drive sports sedan platform that combined genuine track capability with everyday usability. The result was the Commodore, a car that dominated Australian touring car racing and delivered driving dynamics that European competitors charged twice the price to match. In 2008, GM finally brought it to America as the Pontiac G8. The G8 GT packed a 6-liter LS2 V8, producing 361 horsepower, rear-wheel drive, 6-speed automatic, 0 to 60 in under 5 seconds. A chassis that could genuinely handle corners in ways that most American performance sedans had never bothered to attempt. And it wore Pontiac badges in 2008. When Pontiac was already clearly on borrowed time. The buying public looked at the G8, saw a Pontiac, and bought a Camry. GM killed Pontiac in 2010. The G8 died with it after just 2 model years. The GXP version with the Corvette's LS3 engine showed up for 1 final year and was gone before anyone processed what had happened. Today, used G8 GTs are among the most enthusiastically recommended performance bargains in existence. The internet figured it out. The general public still has not. That gap represents one of the greatest buying opportunities in modern used car history. Number 7, 2000 to 2005. Chevrolet Monte Carlo, SS supercharged the Monte Carlo. Now, there is a name that carries absolutely no performance connotations in the modern imagination whatsoever. The Monte Carlo of the 2000s existed in most people's minds, primarily as a NASCAR pace car and a car that your aunt drove in a color called Sunset Gold Metallic. But the SS trim with the supercharged 3.8-liter V6 was a different animal, hiding inside an extremely familiar sheep costume. 240 supercharged horsepower, front-wheel drive, a body so visually unthreatening that it functioned almost as camouflage. The Monte Carlo SS Supercharged was never the fastest car on any given street. It was never the most sophisticated. It was never going to receive awards from automotive press. What it was, reliably and consistently, was faster than it had absolutely any business being given what it looked like. The supercharger whine that accompanied full-throttle acceleration was the only honest part of the entire package. Everything else, the styling, the badge, the NASCAR marketing, screamed ordinary. The powertrain quietly disagreed. These cars ran mid to high 14-second quarter miles from the factory. For a front-drive coupe aimed at buyers who also cross-shopped the Honda Accord, that was a genuinely impressive number. Chevrolet never made a serious effort to market the performance credentials of the supercharged Monte Carlo. That oversight made it a perfect sleeper by complete accident. Sometimes the best camouflage is simply not trying. Number 6, 2005 to 2008, Dodge Magnum RT. The Dodge Magnum was already a strange enough idea. A full-size rear-wheel drive station wagon in 2005, when station wagons had been socially unacceptable for approximately a decade and a half. Dodge introduced it anyway, because Dodge has never particularly cared about being socially acceptable, and that quality is one of their most endearing characteristics. The RT version dropped a 5.7-liter Hemi V8 under the long hood of that wagon body. 340 horsepower, 390 pound-feet of torque, rear-wheel drive, a 5-speed automatic transmission, and enough cargo space to haul an entire engine block to the track while doing it in 13-second quarter miles. The Magnum RT was not exactly invisible. It had presence. It had stance. The long roofline and wide rear haunches gave it a purposeful look that more attentive observers could read correctly. But to the casual viewer, it was a station wagon, and station wagons, in the American automotive consciousness of 2005, registered approximately zero threat. That fundamental misidentification made the Magnum RT one of the purest sleeper experiences of the decade. The Hemi made a sound that the body absolutely did not prepare you for. Driving one was a constant exercise in managing other people's shock and confusion, which, if you enjoy that sort of thing, and many people clearly do, is exactly what you want from a performance car. The Magnum RT was the most fun you could have while watching someone try to process what just happened to them. Number 5. 2000 to 2006, Lincoln LS V8. Lincoln spent the 1990s making enormous, floaty, front-wheel drive luxury barges that competed primarily with each other, for which could feel most disconnected from the actual act of driving. In 2000, they did something that shocked everyone who was paying attention. They launched the Lincoln LS, a compact rear-wheel drive sports sedan with proper suspension geometry, a short-throw manual transmission option, and either a 3.9-liter V8 or a 3-liter V6. The V8 version produced 252 horsepower and 267 pound-feet of torque. 0 to 60 came in around 7 seconds. The chassis dynamics were genuinely impressive, developed in collaboration with Jaguar on a shared platform that also produced the S-Type. This was a Lincoln that could actually be driven with enthusiasm rather than simply pointed in a direction and left to its own devices. The problem was the Lincoln badge. Buyers who wanted a rear-wheel drive sports sedan bought BMWs. Buyers who wanted a Lincoln bought town cars. The LS fell into a gap between two audiences, and neither came looking for it. Sales were disappointing throughout its production run, and Ford killed it in 2006. Without ever properly figuring out how to sell it. The tragedy of the Lincoln LS is that it was a genuinely good car wearing a badge that made people underestimate it systematically. Enthusiasts who drove one came away converted. Almost nobody drove one. That gap between the car's actual capability and its public reputation makes the LS V8 one of the most genuinely underappreciated performance cars the 2000s produced. Number 4. 2000 to 2011, Ford Crown Victoria. Police Interceptor. Before you say anything, yes, the Crown Victoria Police Interceptor is on this list. And no, this is not a joke entry. Stay with me. The Crown Victoria Police Interceptor was not a sleeper in the traditional sense. Law enforcement knew exactly what it was. Career criminals knew exactly what it was. But to the civilian automotive world, the Crown Victoria existed as background noise. Fleet car, taxi, something that sat in parking lots and accumulated door dings. What that civilian world consistently failed to appreciate was that Ford had spent decades engineering the police Interceptor version to be genuinely tough, genuinely fast, and genuinely capable in ways the standard Crown Victoria was not. The 4.6-liter V8 in police specification produced 250 horsepower. The suspension was tuned for high-speed stability and pursuit capability. The cooling system was upgraded, the brakes were upgraded, the transmission programming was more aggressive. When decommissioned police Interceptors began flooding the civilian used car market throughout the 2000s, buyers who understood what they were purchasing got a fully optioned, professionally maintained, rear-wheel drive American V8 sedan for sometimes less than $3,000, with the police calibration still intact. The Crown Victoria Police Interceptor was not glamorous. It was not exotic. It would not win any beauty contests. But it was built to chase things. And that engineering brief translated into a used car bargain so extreme it bordered on irresponsible. Plenty of people bought them. Almost none of them admitted to it in polite company. Number 3, 2005 to 2010. Chrysler 300C SRT8. The Chrysler 300C already looked like it meant business. The regular V8 version was not exactly shy about its intentions. Wide body, long hood. A face that automotive journalists consistently described using words like imposing and authoritative, which are polite ways of saying it looked slightly intimidating in a parking garage. But the SRT8 version took everything the standard 300C implied and made it devastatingly literal. A 6.1-liter Hemi V8, 425 horsepower, 420 pound-feet of torque, Brembo brakes, a sport-tuned suspension, 20-inch wheels, 0 to 60 in under 5 seconds, quarter mile in the high 12-second range. This was supercar performance delivered inside a full-size American luxury sedan that seated 5 adults in genuine comfort and could be purchased from a Chrysler dealership in 2005 for under $40,000. That value proposition was extraordinary by any standard. The SRT8 did not hide its performance ambitions as thoroughly as other entries on this list, but its Chrysler badge provided enough visual camouflage in the real world to produce constant, reliable surprises. BMW drivers who challenged 300C SRT8s at traffic lights in 2006 had a consistent learning experience. The lesson was both immediate and expensive in terms of ego. Chrysler had built something that competed with German sports sedans costing $20,000 more, wrapped it in American luxury, and priced it within reach of buyers who had no business going that fast. That combination of accessibility, performance, and surprise factor makes the 300C SRT8 one of the defining sleeper stories of the entire decade. Number 2, 2004 to 2006. Pontiac GTO. The Pontiac GTO invented the muscle car in 1964. That is not hyperbole, that is historical fact. So, when Pontiac revived the GTO nameplate in 2004, the expectation was something visually aggressive, culturally significant, and unmistakably American. What arrived instead was a slightly rebadged Australian Holden Monaro that looked, to most American eyes, like a mildly sporting Pontiac Grand Prix coupe. The internet was not kind to the 2000s GTO's styling. The complaints were immediate, numerous, and not entirely unfair. It lacked the visual drama the GTO name historically demanded. The hood scoops were non-functional. The overall shape was clean to the point of anonymity. Pontiac's marketing department appeared to have gone on an extended holiday and forgotten to come back. Here is what the critics missed entirely. Under that anonymous exterior lived a 5.7-liter LS1 V8 in 2004 and a 6-liter LS2 in 2005 and 2006. The LS2 produced 400 horsepower, rear-wheel drive, 6-speed manual transmission, a chassis tuned by engineers who took road racing seriously, 0 to 60 in under 5 seconds, quarter mile in the mid-13s. This was a car that could run with Corvettes in a straight line and embarrass Mustang GTs in the corners, wearing a body that generated roughly the same emotional response as a sensible pair of khaki trousers. The performance was real. The anonymity was total. The combination was, for a certain kind of enthusiast, absolutely perfect. The 2000s GTO remains one of the most genuinely capable, most persistently underrated performance cars America produced in the entire decade. Number 1. 2006 to 2010. Dodge Charger SRT8. The Dodge Charger SRT8 pulled off something genuinely brilliant. Everyone knew the Charger existed. Everyone saw it on the road. But the SRT8 variant shared its skin with the V6 rental car version, and that accidental camouflage made it one of the most effective sleepers of the 2000s. Under that ordinary exterior sat a 6.1-liter Hemi V8 producing 425 horsepower and 420 pound-feet of torque, rear-wheel drive, Brembo brakes, a suspension tuned by the Street and Racing Technology Division with zero apologies, 0 to 60 in 4.7 seconds, quarter mile in the low 13s, supercar-adjacent performance for less than $40,000. A V6 Charger and an SRT8 Charger looked virtually identical to anyone not examining the badges with deliberate attention. And that created a situation that repeated itself constantly across America between 2006 and 2010. An ordinary-looking Charger would line up next to something European, something driven by someone whose confidence significantly exceeded the available evidence. The light would change, and the Charger would leave. It was not the rarest car of the decade, not the most sophisticated, but it was faster than anyone expected, every single time. And that, completely and perfectly, is the point.